Hi, welcome to Spark Stories. I am Elizabeth Hoover de Galvez. I'm a librarian at the Central Library and the Des Moines Public Library. And I'm here today with Tim Sieber, who is the Executive Director of Tech Journey, which provides technology learning enrichment opportunities to Central Iowa students through its Tech Camp, Youth Code, and Coder Dojo Des Moines, or Coder Dojo DSM programs, as well as sponsoring teams that participate in robotics competitions. You'll hear Tim's spark story and what motivates him to inspire youth through technology and what he reads to stay inspired. So thank you, Tim, so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I very much appreciate the opportunity and look forward to sharing, what has sparked me in my past and why I do what I do.
And full disclosure, I've been taking my child to Coder Dojos in Des Moines for about the last year or so, and they are wonderful. I mean, just a really great group of mentors there from the community teaching kids about coding and all sorts of computer things. So it's a great program. So can you tell us more about the work you're doing in the community?
Yeah, and full disclosure as well, I would say your son is the type of a youth who helps us kind of keep that spark going because just his interest and engagement. And so when we see youth that are engaged and have that interest, it's definitely why we do what we do. So so I guess to answer that question, in a nutshell, what my kind of personal mission is about and what I do in the community is about trying to inspire and engage youth to engage with and get involved with technology. And to clarify that, it's not about consuming technology. It's about using technology to be creative, to contribute, to do something with it in a way that will better themselves or better a situation. A lot of times we like to think about it more in the context of using technology to solve problems, to make a difference. And so that's really what we do. Tech Journey, our mission is about providing these opportunities for the students to engage and to be led through this by technology professionals. So we're a volunteer-based organization who specifically takes Central Iowa technology professionals, technologists, and that have a desire to work with youth and put them into these types of roles and these types of programs so that they can support the youth, walk along with them, help them, and just basically sit shoulder to shoulder with them.
And what you said, it's your mission to inspire youth to use technology to make a difference. Can you tell me and the audience about a specific experience, your spark story, in other words, which inspired you to do this type of work?
Yeah, so there's actually, I guess, a couple of levels that I want to respond to that. And first, my background, I had about 25 years of experience in information technology. Part of much of that was at Pioneer, now Corteva. It'll always be Pioneer to me. And while I was at Pioneer, I actually read a book. I think you'll appreciate that. The book was called Halftime by a gentleman. His name was, I believe, Bob Buford, and it was really about the idea of how an individual in kind of the halftime of their life, some men will look to things like maybe needing to go on a motorcycle ride or trip or something like that, or maybe they got to go get a new sports car or something. And what this gentleman did, what the author did was, and he was a very successful businessman in Texas in communications. But he challenged himself with the idea of, how do I turn from being successful to being significant? How do I take my personal equity and use that to make a difference? And And when I say personal equity, I don't necessarily mean, it's got to be like financial equity, but it can be experiences, it can be knowledge, it can be, the passions that we have. It's those types of things that we've, been able to cultivate over the years to help us, shape us into who we are, and then be able to be significant in the way of giving that back to others. So that was really kind of the start of it. And what that did is it prompted me to leave Pioneer. I actually retired, so to speak. And I started doing nonprofit work. And I basically volunteered at some different organizations, one of which was a community center on the east side of Des Moines. And I started working with youth through a program, like an after school program. And so as I was working with the youth, it really kind of inspired me, and the idea came to mind as far as, well, I've got all this technology background, that's my equity. How can I start sharing that with the youth? And so that kind of started a personal mission of diving into what could that look like. I've been a practitioner for 25 years. I never sat down with youth to talk about technology, coding, anything related to that. So I needed to kind of do a little bit of research to figure this out. And then we actually started delivering some summer camps to students. And so through that, the youth code program that you referenced as part of Tech Journey, that actually came to fruition at that time. And then since then, and we had started a nonprofit in order to run that program. And since then, that nonprofit merged with Tech Journey, and they were in need of an executive director. And so I've been able to step into that role. And we've been able to continue that program as well as the Tech Journey program, so we're in existence. And so the ball just kind of kept rolling from there. But yeah, it was on the east side of Des Moines in a community center working with youth over there that really was the spark.
Wow, what an incredible story. So you said you kind of like retired from your original career, and it took you on this like crazy journey that like led you to an entirely different career, right? That I assume is more fulfilling for you in many ways.
Yeah. So I have a faith story. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and so that has a lot to do with it, because just through him I understand more of what it means to be like him, and what he did for humanity. And so that's another inspiration that I have. And so yeah, it is a wonderful opportunity, and I've grown so much from that. And I think what's also kind of interesting is, and I know we don't have a lot of time to get into details, but a lot of my life, especially my career, my adult life, I really didn't have much of a care for working with children. So to be able to kind of go from that and focusing so much on my job and success to turn a corner, and now that's all I do is work with students, middle school up to high school students, and it is so rewarding. It's awesome. So I never would have guessed that. I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the Spark speakers that have shared their stories talk about, their faith journey, their spirituality, and how that has inspired and influenced them. So I think that's a common thread, that I see in a lot of the stories that people have shared. You've kind of covered this a bit, but do you have a vision for where Tech Journey is going, or where you're going, and what you want to accomplish in the community ultimately?
Yeah, so if we look at this kind of from a more of a landscape of what's been going on in not only the world, but even specific to Iowa, there's such an emphasis on technology because we're in a digital era, right? And so I don't know the data off the top of my head, but a few years back, there was a study that was commissioned by the state of Iowa, which led to the Future Ready Iowa initiative, where Iowa decided, we need to start investing in our workforce, a future ready workforce, giving them digital skills, getting them ready for the jobs that are going to be needed. And a lot of those jobs are technical jobs, okay? And so I believe the goal was by a certain date, they wanted to have, I believe the goal is to have like 85% of Iowans to have some kind of post-college, or excuse me, post-secondary education, and to put them into jobs. And so traditionally, when you think about kind of the path that students take, if you looked at that data, there becomes this huge gap of, well, how are we gonna prepare a workforce when traditional data shows that we can't get to that 85% mark. And so one of the things, and we see this again quite a bit in today in society, and the work that's going on in business, is that we need to, especially in technology, we need to focus on those that are underrepresented. And so, for example, females are underrepresented in technology. They've not been part of that traditional path towards jobs in technology. So how do we get more females interested in technology? How do we get more minority students interested in technology? How do we get more students that normally wouldn't have access to technology? Maybe they don't have a computer at home. Maybe they don't have access to those types of tools. And so how do we help them so that we can get to those numbers and see the change that needs to take place? And so with Tech Journey, our focus and part of that vision is really to open those doors for the students that are underserved and underrepresented. And one example of that, like for our high school program, which is called Tech Camp, we do a 1 week immersive camp with students, about 100 students who are in the Des Moines area. And we have about 60 professionals come in. They're the facilitators, they're the mentors, they're the ones that are speaking to the students and working with the students on various technology topics. And we really target those underrepresented and underserved students coming to camp. So typically we'll get 40 to anywhere 55, 60% of those students, for example, are going to be female that come to camp, which is amazing when you compare that. And one of the benchmarks we look at is student data that's tracked for who takes AP computer science college exams or curriculum exams in the state of Iowa. That's typically, for females, that's typically like 15 to 17%. So if you've only, one set of data is saying, we only have a small percentage of females that are taking these types of exams, looking forward to the future, but yet in our program over here, we're getting, 50%, give or take, of females. And so we feel that we're very successful in doing that, and that's contributing to closing that gap of the tech talent that's going to be needed for the future.
Right. And I mean, tech is basically needed for so much work now, pretty much every job. So it's not just the tech-centered jobs, but this is helping prepare kids to be ready to, get good jobs in the future, I'm sure, too, in all different fields.
Yeah, and that's just it. I think sometimes we stereotype the idea that technology is just a computer, but it really permeates across all industries. It's across all jobs. And so we no longer think in terms of somebody who wants to go in the medical field doesn't need to know technology. They absolutely need to know technology.
Right. Can you talk about some books, which you mentioned one, which played into your Spark story? Are there other books that you want to talk about that have been influential along the way?
I apologize because I looked for the halftime book, but I think I might have gave it away to somebody else to read. I will say that my inspiration comes from Holy Scriptures, the Bible. I do that on a daily basis. Then I've got a couple other books here, and I'm not sure this is fair, but I have a book that I haven't read yet, but it represents something, and I have every intention of reading it. When I, as I mentioned, when I came out of a Pioneer and started to have this idea of wanting to work with the students, I started to do some research, and I came across research of a computer scientist. His name was Seymour Papert, and he was at MIT University, very influential in creating some of the work that has come out of MIT as far as artificial intelligence, but then also what they call their lifelong media program. And he and some of his fellow colleagues, they created a programming language that was actually called Logo. And this was back in the 70s. And Papert was I think they coined it a creationist. Like his idea was that students could create and that they could learn from creating things. And so his vision was that, someday every student would actually have a computer, and by using the computer to learn things like computational thinking, problem solving, these types of things, that they would actually be better, well-rounded students, and they would do better in other disciplines. And I think it's amazing. This was back in the 70s, and here we are, literally 50 years later, where we're still on that path of getting computers into schools and things like this. So this is a book I had picked up. I haven't read it yet, but I do have every intention of reading it. This one's called The Hidden Language of Computer Hardware and Software. Even though I consider myself an IT practitioner, my bachelor's degree is in accounting, and I did graduate work in information systems. That's kind of when I really got interested. And so I don't have a lot of, from an educational side of things, I don't have a lot of background in theory and what really makes hardware and software work. And this book has been a great reference. It's by Charles Petzold, and it literally walks through everything from when you hear about the ones and zeros of computer code to why that is, how that works, how does a computer make that work, to logic gates and things like this. So this has been a really good reference. And then this was a really great inspiration. This is called 3D game programming for kids. And it's by Chris Strom. And I actually started going through this with a group of kids one time. And it was writing JavaScript to create these 3D scenes using a JavaScript library. And what I really took away from it is the first chapter of the book wasn't anything about coding, programming, nothing about this, computer inputs, outputs, anything like this. It was, hey, let's make something really cool, really quick. And that stuck with me because what I've learned working with youth is when they can see the possibility, when they can see the outcome of what a technology can do, they're a little bit, they seem to be more inclined to grasp and engage and want to get involved with something. I mean, I'll admit, going back to thinking through, what my younger self was like at that age, I didn't want to sit through, days or weeks or months of theory and how to write a computer program and not see the fruit of my labor. When you can get to that really quickly, it makes it more real. And so we've actually in a lot of what we do with the youth code program and tech camp and the other programs, that's really kind of I guess a philosophy that we hold closely, is get to an outcome quickly so these students can see what's in front of them and what the capability is, and then they can make a decision from there of, oh, do I want to learn more, do I want to dig into it. And so it was really in going through this book that inspired me to really kind of take that approach.
Excellent. Yeah. And I see it every time I come to Coder Dojo, is that just that kids get excited and they have stuff to present at the end of class, which I think is wonderful. You know, like that's a wonderful way of showing that they accomplish something in 1 hour or 2 hours. So
you bet. You bet.
It's a great approach.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share?
You know, I just think that you know, we're at it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier when we were talking about like future ready Iowa, and not just Iowa, but we're in a digital age, and we see so much around us where technology is shaping so much. You know, I have lots of conversations with my son about, you know, when I was his age, I think we're called crossovers, you know, because we didn't have technology, we didn't have a smartphone when we grew up. So I get to tell the stories of, you know, what it was like to, when I need to be picked up from school, I'd go to the payphone and you know, call my parents and click on the receiver so that they could hear that. That was our signal to come pick me up. And, you know, he's a native, he's growing up with this in his hand. And so digital literacy is just so important. And it's becoming, I think that's becoming more and more of a reality that we're starting to see, you know, it more integrated into school curriculums. We're starting to see it more integrated into enrichment programs like what we're doing. There's just a lot more focus. And so I think just still trying to create that awareness of you know, this is something that has a significant impact on our lives, and we have to be intentional about it. And so then I kind of go full circle back to where, you know, we don't want to just be consumers. We need to use this and be contributors. We need to use technology and make a difference. And we just want to keep delivering that message, I guess. And I'll just leave it at that.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing your Spark story today. It was so interesting to hear. And I hope everyone in the audience enjoyed hearing your Spark story. And if you'd like to check out Tech Journey's website, take your kids to the program, sign your kids up for the programs. And you can also check out the library's website and look for Spark stories. You can find older Spark stories, and be sure to tune in for another episode next month. Thank you.